Welcome to the Renegade Nutrition Podcast, where we discuss all things wellness.
I'm Elanie Welch, nutritionist.
And I'm Kay Boyer, health enthusiast. Welcome back, Renegades.
Welcome, Renegades.
Welcome. We have another special guest this week that I know that she's on Instagram. If you scroll through her pages, you're going to fall in love with this woman, because I did. And I want her to feed me every day. Come live in my house. So I'm so excited for everyone else to learn about our guest.
Yes. Welcome to the podcast, Renee Kohley.
Thank you.
Your account is Raising Generation Nourished, and I was just fangirling a little bit.
Yes, we are geeking out.
Before we started, and I was saying, so it's just interesting the people that impact your own journey, and especially with social media being in our lives, it's this funny dichotomy where people can impact us and we don't know them personally, and they have no idea they're doing it, right? So,
right. But we know so much about your life, and you don't know us at all.
Right. But I was early in my career as a nutritionist. My friend Sarah Lynn was, I can't remember what we were talking about, but she was like, do you follow this lady, Raising Generation Nourished? I really love her, and sent me your account. And of course, like Kay experienced looking through it, I just fell in love with your content and especially your mission, because if you are familiar with Renee at all, she has such a compassionate voice. And I think for moms, that's what moms need is compassion and support. And I loved that there was nothing judgmental about, like, you just were so supportive of every mom where they're at who's trying to feed their family well. And your information became such a staple for me as a nutritionist with my clients, because Renee has these amazing tips and tricks and hacks for meal planning and food prepping and freezer, like saving meals aside for the whole week, like having breakfast ready to go. And she's just always putting out new content for, here's this quick recipe you can make in 30 minutes and have freezer meals for the next like week. And so it became really, for me, that's just not my area of expertise or passion, it became such a great resource for my clients who would ask for, I can't have eggs, or I can't have dairy, or I can't have gluten. Do you have any recipes? Do you have any meal plans? How do I food prep? My life is changing. What do I do? And I have a family to feed. How do I make it family friendly? And so Renee has just been my go-to for all of my clients. I'm like, well, I don't have that, but thank goodness for the internet, because I have this incredible lady, and just go follow her on her Instagram. She's always putting out new recipes. She's always putting out new meal plans. Go check out her website, go check out her blog. And then you also have at least one cookbook. Is there more than one? I know you have the Little Lunchbox. There's two. Okay.
Yeah, there's two cookbooks. My first cookbook, I wrote after my third. So I have 3 daughters.
Yeah.
And when my third baby was like kind of entering toddlerhood, I wrote Nourished Beginnings Baby Food.
Okay.
Which is a cookbook that's about helping moms. Actually, what I found was that like you had your firstborn and you're getting ready to do this, right, Elaine? So like you're ready to do the first foods and you're getting ready to start solids. And I like made all her baby food, and it's like when you have like one baby at home, it's so easy to do that.
Right.
Or maybe for some people I was working full time at the time, but I still made time to like make her baby food.
Yeah.
And then like you get to number 2, and I had another baby. They're my first and second born are 23 months apart.
Okay.
So it's very busy.
Yes.
And, you kind of like, okay, I'm going to do the same thing for the second one that I did for the first one. So I'm going to like kind of make a lot of her baby food, which I did. And then you get to number 3 and it's like,
you're outnumbered.
But this is like a totally different ball game. And I found that actually as my first 2 started getting older, I kind of noticed that if I was just feeding them off of my plate, if I was eating well, right?
Yeah, right.
Eating good things, just feeding them off my plate was a game changer in creating really broad taste palettes.
Yes.
So like kids that are not picky, kids that'll eat just about anything because you start them really, really, really little.
Yeah.
And so the baby food cookbook is actually the first like quarter of the cookbook shows you how to introduce and what to introduce to baby, like one ingredient at a time.
Adding to Instagram cart, right? Or my
Yeah.
Amazon cart right now.
But the majority of the cookbook is actually family meals, because what I found was like, why make all this baby food when I ultimately want her to be eating what we're eating as a family?
Right.
Yeah.
And so every recipe shows you how to make the meal, but then adapt it for baby. So maybe you're cutting it up smaller, or maybe you're pulsing it up in a blender. Like you're going to take a chicken stew. There's a very popular recipe in the cookbook. It's the autumn chicken stew. And so mom and dad and sister and brother, whatever, can eat the stew in a bowl. And then you can take baby's stew at 6, 7, 8 months old and either put pieces of it on their tray and they can fish for it, or you can blend it up in a blender a little bit or pulse it up a little bit and spoon feed it if they want to do that. If you're doing baby led weaning, you can have them just kind of grab at it.
Yeah.
So that's what that cookbook is more geared towards.
Amazing. You're so amazing. And I
agree. Even just you talking, I'm like, this woman is amazing.
I want to talk more about your cookbooks too, but I want to start as sort of at the beginning. Kay and I are such like
nerds.
We're about the person really, like behind it all. And so I'd love whatever you're willing to share. What was your journey like? What brought you to develop the Raising Generation Nourished, to develop your website and your blog and those books? What has your own journey kind of looked like up to that point, and what was the motivation for that?
Yeah. What made you care about like the health aspect too, as well as the equipping mothers?
Yeah, sure. Well, I was your typical 80s kid, 90s teen. I grew up on the standard American diet.
Yeah.
Like 100%. I mean, I remember cooked meals. I remember my mom cooking probably more than the average 80s mom.
Yeah.
But I definitely was like 80s, 90s standard American diet.
Yeah.
So I did not grow up this way. I grew up with ranch dressing and skim milk and Cheerios in my bowl.
Yes.
And so it was what happens. I feel like a lot of people that come into this kind of like trying to learn about this is something happens, right?
Yeah.
And so I found myself in my 20s, and little side note, I was kind of one of those like, type A, straight A, go all the time.
Yes.
And so that stress coupled with not the best diet for the first 20 years of my life.
Right. Yeah.
I found myself very sick in my early 20s, like so many. I want to say Americans. I'm just going to say Americans because I'm not, that's like my reality.
Yeah.
American. I'm sure that it probably could go worldwide.
Yeah. Yes.
But like so many 20-year-olds that grow up that way, I found myself really sick, and I, went more, I always feel like I was a little more naturally minded.
Mm-hmm.
I went to therapy school. I, did physical therapy with, that was like kind of what I did for about 9 years.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
Wow.
And so I was always a little bit more interested in health and natural things and things like that always piqued my interest.
Sure.
And when I found that the mainstream medical system was not helping me, I still felt like junk. Mm-hmm. I have Hashimoto's and diagnosed very, very young, like 20.
Yeah. Wow.
And so nothing was helping. And so I ended up, going a more natural route with a more naturally minded doctor, and, was introduced to like cooking.
Yeah.
Right. I don't have a cooking background. I don't have cooking training. I didn't do a whole lot of cooking in the house when I was young, a child or whatever, but I found that I had to. I was like kind of forced into it because if I wanted to feel better, this was what this doctor was saying I needed to do.
Yeah.
Was, just eat better. And I was eating better in those terms, back then better was the soy protein bar or the, lean cuisine or.
Right.
But it wasn't, once you know better, you do better.
Yeah.
And so that kind of changed that whole mindset for me. And I made my first whole, roasted chicken and bone broth and I started feeling better. And that was ultimately what changed my thoughts to, this is incredible. Why isn't more of this out there? And it kind of started with me, and I needed to heal me and fix me. And then as I got a little bit older and then into my late 20s, I had my firstborn, and I was like, she is not going to suffer like I did.
Right.
She is not going, like, it was like, it started in my home. I'm going to do this for her, and I'm going to make it better for her.
Yeah.
Wow.
Like kind of that mama bear thing.
Yes. Right. Relatable.
And the Nourished beginnings start, I started blogging for a friend of mine, just recipes, because she knew I was really into recipes. I just started blogging for her for a little while, and then started my Raising Generation Nourished after I had my third baby.
Okay.
And so really, I think it was more, I remember having my first baby and not knowing what to do.
Yeah.
There was no resources. This was way back when it was basically, it was Weston Price had a blog and their little, their book. And then Jenny from Nourished Kitchen, who became a mentor of mine. Like that was that was it. There wasn't a lot of resources for feeding real food to kids and how to do it.
Yeah.
And so I just kind of wanted to be that resource for a real mom, not like, this mom that has all this time and, maybe it's for every mom. Yeah. So if you're busy and working full time, or you're at home homeschooling, I can accommodate all of it.
Yeah.
Because we all have to pick our own paths, like we're not cookie cutter. No mom is.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
And so we have to make it, every mom wants to nourish their kid once they figure out, that that's something that they want a goal for. So if that's your goal, we're going to figure out how to do it.
Yeah.
Regardless of where you are in life. If you're working full time, you're not working full time, you're homeschooling, your kids are in public school, it can be done anyway.
Wow. And I'll say from your Instagram pictures, they look delicious. So not only are you like feeding them well, but you're feeding them delicious food, which is incredible. That looks gorgeous.
It's a lot more fun to eat if it's good.
Yes. Agreed. And I've even personally, like I said, I've been directing my clients to your website and your social media handles for a while. But even I found myself, since having my daughter, all of a sudden, I used to have all this time, and eating healthy, of course, being a nutritionist is very important to me, not only for my own health, but because I'm modeling that behavior for my clients. And so I know I have to live what I talk. And so I went from having all this time to do all this meal prep and create these gorgeous foods to, I don't know, I might have 10 minutes and I might have one hand to do it. Right. And I've just been pulling on your recipe so heavily. I just made your rotisserie chicken last week, which was hands down the best chicken I've ever had. We just bought 20 chickens from our local farmer, and I'm like, did we get enough? Because
this is all we're gonna eat.
Because now I want to make this every week.
I love it.
But
awesome.
They're so good. They were so easy, so quick, and it's I can put my daughter in her chair in the kitchen, and that usually buys me maybe 15-20 minutes of time, and it was enough just to do what I needed to do to get that prepped each day. And it was really a game changer for me, and just realizing, okay, this is real. I'm not going to ever have the time that I used to have to dedicate towards my health and my meals. So I have to figure out a way to do it faster, but still maintain the same quality.
Is that your little one is watching you make time for making that important. Yeah. Because our generation, you guys are much younger than I am. At least my generation, I'm assuming your generation as well. We didn't see that. Mom wasn't in the kitchen. It wasn't made a priority. But that's kind of the whole, let's fix this for this generation, to see that they have to take some time to make the food that makes their bodies feel good.
I love it so much. And that kind of leads me into one of our next questions, which was for our mama listeners. Talk to us about raising a nourished generation. What does that mean and look like for you?
Yeah. I don't know if you've heard the saying that today's kids are well fed but undernourished.
Yes.
I don't know if you've heard that before, but
absolutely.
That's kind of how I look at what my generation was, at least. And in a lot of families today, but I feel like a lot of moms new moms, it like they know that it's got to be better. We got to make it better.
Right.
A lot of kids are very well fed. Americans specifically, we're well fed. There's plenty of food in the pantry.
Yes.
But we're very undernourished. And I guess the question that I like to ask is, do you know what good really feels like? So we say like, well, I ate that when I was a kid in the 80s and I turned out fine.
Right.
Did you really?
Yeah. Yes.
Or did you have disturbed sleep? Did you get really tired when you were running around playing? Did you have complete meltdowns all the time? Now kids are going to have meltdowns, but did you really struggle with controlling emotions and controlling like your behaviors and whatever, especially in, growing up back then, like the food dyes, that wasn't something that we knew was something to watch for. And so like it was in everything, and it still kind of is. And so I guess when I say that we're going to raise a nourished generation, I mean, let's help our kids know what good actually feels like. Let's not get them to their 20s and have to deal with all these health things because for the last 2 decades they've eaten like junk. So you might not see it right now, but the accumulation of that over years and years and decades, it can be really bad. Like in my case, and I was quite sick in my 20s. One thing that I like to tell the young moms is, as you're thinking about feeding your little one, it was always in the back of my head, make every bite count.
Yes.
Okay. Let's stop with the fillers.
Yes.
I'm even going to be the meanie and say, just walk past the toddler puffs. Just walk past them. Don't even make them something. And that, if you're already doing that in your house, fine. It's fine. It's okay. We can figure that out.
Yeah. Right.
If you are a brand new mom, I'm not going to dance around this. Like if you are a brand new mom, just walk past them.
Yes.
Do finger foods in a completely different way. And you're going to be so thankful you did.
Yeah.
I have my girls are 14, 12, and 10 right now. And I can tell you it is so worth it.
Yes.
Because I don't have to think about, they choose to eat healthy. They choose it. Some of it is because it's just, that's what's in the house. The junk isn't available, so they're not going to eat it. But I'm also talking about my 14-year-old and my 12-year-old going to friends' birthday parties, because you are going to get to that point. With go to a friend's birthday party and you have to let them fly. You have to let them make their decisions. When they were 2, 3, and 4, I'm making decisions for them. That when they hit school and they're going to start going to school stuff, you have to let them feel some of that, and you have to let them make those choices. And they are they actually are. They may have made some of those, when they were little and maybe tried the stuff and then got the tummy ache.
Yes.
You felt it and you helped them, understand what that meant. But I will tell you, it is so worth it to help them to make every bite count when they're little. So that when they're bigger, they're going to make those really good choices. And you know what? The fillers, the toddler puffs, the goldfish, it's not doing anything for them.
Right.
True.
Not filling them up. They're going to be hungry in an hour.
Empty calories.
And you can make it. It doesn't have to be fancy. You don't have to make toddler puffs. There's recipes out there for them. I've seen them. It's pointless. Give them some cheese and some apples. It's just as fast. It tastes good. And they're going to be full. They're not going to have the meltdowns as often. They're going to sleep better at night. And so that's when I say raising a nourished generation. I want them to know what good feels like. And when you're talking about the little ones, making every bite count.
Oh, yes. I love you, Renee.
Yeah, I know. We're like, preach. This is kind of a cool story for my daughter. She's 10 too, but she, so my husband just got diagnosed with Hashimoto's. And so in the last year, we've gone gluten-free, and even for our daughter, because we want her to, have a better chance to not get Hashimoto's, like my husband has. Anyway, so in the last year, we've cleaned gluten out of her diet. And with the podcast, I've started eating more chicken broth and soups and things like that. And anyway, quick story. My daughter is in volleyball. And last year, we just noticed it was her first year. And she would just look around and pick her belly button. We were just like, pay attention, Roslyn, the ball is coming, you know. Okay, a full year of now eating gluten-free and then like mostly good and more soups. Okay, we like took her to volleyball. It just started, and she's like paying attention to the ball, you could just tell her mind is present, and she's there. And I was like, "What?" I was like, "Kevin, this is like a miracle." Like she's like focusing, you know. Like it's just really neat how food matters. Yeah,
it does. It really does.
I love that so much, and I have watched so many moms that are struggling with their kids' attention spans, or their kids are getting diagnosed with attention deficit disorder when they're in school. And the first question is, well, okay, what do they eat for breakfast? Because if they're eating something with food dyes, that affects their ability to concentrate. It affects their energy. It affects their mood. If they're eating something with a lot of sugar and processed sugars, if they're eating things with refined grains, all of those things impact their energy. And of course, they're going to be hyperactive because you're pumping them
and
full of things that increase their energy. And then they're going to have a crash because their body is not getting the proteins and the fats that it needs to regulate their blood sugar. So just like any adult that you know, if you have too much sugar, you're going to have a high and then you're going to have a crash and you're going to feel lousy. And what do you do when you feel lousy? You are not engaged, you're not paying attention, and you're probably kind of a butt. Because you don't feel good. So like, look at the kids. You're like making them really hyperactive, and then they're acting out because they don't feel good, but they don't know how to communicate
and they
that.
Don't know that.
Yeah, exactly. And they don't even know it because that's just been their life since they were born. So that's what I love, is there's no judgment, because we're all just trying to do the best we can.
Right.
Yeah.
But it's so important that we understand that what we're feeding our kids is impacting their behavior every day. Yeah. And I love your mission of having kids that really know what it means to feel good, not just what it means to survive and to live in this continual brain fog. Because I'm sure, like you experienced, Renee, we've all had this moment where we've changed our own health journey and chosen to eat healthy, and all of a sudden we're like, oh, this is what it's like to feel good. I thought I felt fine. I didn't have a disease. I wasn't actively sick. I mean, you were, but for a lot of people, it's almost just like, I didn't realize how terrible I felt. I have some clients that make a joke that are like, you broke me, because
now I know.
Now I feel crappy.
Now you know.
I'm like, it's just that you felt lousy all the time. They're like, now I feel really sick when I eat gluten. I'm like, imagine you felt that way every day. You just didn't know it. You didn't know what good felt like. So I think you brought up such an important point, which was your kids making those healthy decisions. And that was one of my questions, is how do you really teach your kiddos the principles of healthy eating? And then kind of to follow up with that, I've noticed just from following your account for years, is your kids are engaged. They're in the kitchen. They like to help create with you. So how do you teach them those healthy principles? And then how do you engage them in the kitchen so that they walk out of the house, when they're ready to go out and be on their own, and they have the tools and principles they need to continue cooking for themselves?
Yeah, absolutely. I think definitely making them body aware. I call it making them body aware is really important. So helping them see okay, let's start. We'll go at a couple of different ages. So let's start with your toddler. Yeah. So you have a toddler at home, and they, you have lunch, and they had a couple of bites or whatnot, and it's a healthy lunch. Yeah. They had a couple of bites, and as toddlers do, they get distracted and they run off and play. Yeah. 10 minutes later, 20 minutes later, they have a complete and utter meltdown over the sock not being the right color, or the other kid took this toy from me, and they are completely losing it. Yeah. Okay. So they're on the floor, they're completely losing it. Once you get them regulated, because you cannot reason with 2 or 3 or 4, especially if they're not regulated. You can't reason with a child if they're not regulated. So get them calm down, give them the hug, get them calmed down. When you get them to the point where they're, feeling a little bit better, hey, let's come over here and eat a little bit more of your lunch. Don't explain anything why, just start eating. And all of a sudden they perk up and they feel better. Yeah. So once their brain is able to work again, they're regulated, they've had their little snack or whatever. Hey, Tommy, remember when we, had that little meltdown over here? your body was so hungry and your blood sugar was low, and they don't understand what any of those terms are, but you're starting it young because it will get into their brain.
Yes.
And you're going to feel like a complete idiot trying to describe this to a 2-year-old, but it does stick at some point, and those messages do stick in their brain. I will still have to this day a child that'll come home and you know, they'll, you know, older now, they'll say, yeah, I felt really junky because I got chatty at lunchtime and I forgot to eat all of my lunch, you know, and they just like, they're super, super hungry, but they're making that connection because we made it really, really little.
Yes. I love
now,
that.
if you have older kids already, that's okay. You know what? You're with your volleyball player, make that connection with her because that will stick. You can make that connection with her that, like, you know, last year I noticed that this was happening when you were playing volleyball. And like this year, because we've taken that brain fog out of the way with gluten, and that's not everybody, gluten doesn't affect everybody that way, but some people it does. A lot of people it does. You know, you can think better. And so, you know, you can make that connection for her because kids can't make that connection. They're not going to make that mind-body connection. That this certain food, you know, I always tell the story of my youngest when she went to her very first school birthday party, and it was, you know, the bright blue cake and the pizza, and like she had never had any of it, and it was like her complete free-for-all. She was so excited to eat every single bite. She even might have had seconds, I'm pretty sure. And she was so sick that she had the worst stomachache that night. And the next day I want to say it was like her pee. It was like blue. It was like purpley blue because of this. I'm telling you, I've never seen such a bright birthday cake.
all the food dyes.
And you make that connection with them. And instead of just, oh, well, you ate like, you know, hey, listen, this is what happens when you have food dye. It goes into your body. It's like actually a chemical, and it turns like, this is what it's doing to your body, and like help them make that body connection, that awareness, so that they can make better choices next time. And they may not make those good choices right away. It may take, because you can watch them make, you know, at a birthday party, you can see once they kind of know. I've watched my girls kind of like have that battle in their mind. Is it worth it?
Yes.
Like, with it. And then they get older and maybe a little more mature, and they start maybe, you know, I'm always very quick to say at the birthday party, it's okay to have a bite just to see what it tastes like and have some fun. And then, you know, when you're done with it, throw it away. It's okay.
Yes.
My generation was clean your plate. You're like the worst person in the world. If you don't clean your plate, you're being wasteful. There's kids that are starving in Africa.
Right. We heard that.
So like, let's break that. Let's stop that. It's okay to be done when your body says it's done. And so like, I guess just making them body aware is one of the biggest ways to help them with healthy eating. And then just, you know, having it in the house and cooking with them is really important. I'm trying to remember the second part.
No, that's okay. This is perfect because I was actually just going to say too, just a little quick side story to add on to what you're saying. My husband and I, it took us 3 years to get pregnant with our daughter. We were struggling a lot with infertility. And one of the things that I did was work with my chiropractor who works on emotional clearing. And she was identifying things that may be mentally and emotionally blocking me from wanting to become a mom. And one of the things that came up was not being able to have control over what my child eats when she goes to birthday parties or if she goes to school. We want to homeschool, but what if she goes to school? Like, we're still on the fence about that. So like, it was this sense of when my child is not in my house and I can't control what she's eating, she's going to go out and eat things that make her sick. And I had so much fear over that it was like, almost keeping me emotionally from being able to get pregnant because I was afraid to bring a child into this world that has so many terrible food choices. But I just like hearing you talk is bringing me so much peace to my soul because it's just so simple to explain to them from a very young age, help them draw the connection and know you're not going to be able to stop them from having those experiences, which was what my chiropractor said. She's like, you're going to be battling this your whole life.
Yes.
You just have to learn to let go a little bit, because your child will have to make those decisions. You can't control them. That is the reality. Like, I wish I could give you words of comfort, but the reality is you don't control it, and you just have to be okay. And just
if you're making food a positive experience, so you're getting them in, at 1, they're sitting there watching, as a baby, you've got watching you make your rotisserie chicken. And then as a toddler, you're getting the little helper stand, or you're getting them up on a stool, up at the island, or up at the counter. And they're watching you and helping you, even if it's just washing and playing in the sink.
Yes.
They're in the kitchen, you're making positive experience with them. To this day, my older, all of them really, because comfort food ideals start very young.
Yes.
So what do you think about when you think of getting sick? Me as an 80s kid and 90s teen, I think of Sprite and saltines and red Jello.
Yes.
Right? And so to this day, when I get sick, I've changed some of that to a degree, but I will still get healthier crackers out.
Yes.
Because or I need bubbles.
Yes.
A carbonated something when I feel sick. And it's because that is how my brain was trained. I have retrained some of that. I do crave more like a brothy soup or something like that.
Yes.
But to this day, when my kids are feeling ill, or they just they'll come to a Sunday dinner, and it's a very comforting Sunday dinner, even if it's just something simple like a roasted chicken, they are so pumped because they had it from really little. You set those food memories, those food positive memories really, really little. And when they're sick, they ask for, I remember when they were little, they would ask for raw milk, or they would ask for a sippy of bone broth or something like that.
Amazing.
And it's because you started little. But you can make positive food experiences even if you have older kids now too. They just want to be with you. They spell love Time, right?
Yes.
Time with them.
Yes.
And so get in the kitchen with them and make the applesauce this fall, and make the apple pie, because it's okay to have some sugar sometimes too.
Yes.
And it's okay to give them positive food memories as well. So I think that they're going to make those healthier food choices. When they have a positive feeling about food. It's not just, no, you can't have this. No, you can't have this. No, you can't have this all the time.
Yep. Then the stress. Yeah.
Exactly. Yeah, you just brought so much peace to my soul. I'm like, okay, she's going to be fine.
She's going to be fine.
She's going to watch what I do.
Her to be that body aware is brilliant. I'm going to use this forever. So then when they go, they're going to think, I want to feel positive. I don't want to feel negative. They're going to make their own choice, which is amazing. This is so good.
That makes me feel so much better.
Yeah.
It's just, I think this was like a therapy session. You just lifted a burden off of my shoulders.
The nutritionist anxiety.
Right? I'm like, everybody watches me and my family. What
if she eats Skittles?
Focus on what they can have.
Yes.
Focus on what they can have.
Absolutely.
Because there's a lot more that they can have than they can't have.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
So in the kitchen now, my kids are 8 and 10 too, but I have to say I'm not great in the kitchen. I'm doing better, and I do the bone broth. Elanie's teaching me some things. But okay, how can I better engage with my children in the kitchen? And I hear you say I have positive things there. I'm a little bit of a high-strung mom, where when they start splattering things on the counter, I'm like, just go away. I'm going to do it myself. You're messy. How do you handle that in your heart?
I do get that. And I hear you, because I'm very type A. Look at my
yes.
You're gorgeous kitchen.
I am too. So sometimes, and especially because you have older ones, you can walk away sometimes and just give that, because your 8 and 10-year-olds, it is such a magical age. So around those tweeny years, so 8, 9, 10, tweeny, and then getting up into the more early teens, it is super magical as far as kitchen stuff goes. They love to bake. Okay. They love every single, and especially, I'll give you an example, because my 2 older girls are very different personalities. One is super, super spunky and kind of like me. Yeah. And then my other one is really reserved and laid back, sort of like my husband. Mm-hmm. But both of them, my middle one, I could get her in the kitchen, but it was very short spurts when she was little. She was just very high energy, just always wanted to be playing and doing and moving. Mm-hmm. and I couldn't necessarily trust her around heat or knives or anything. It was a pencil.
Yes.
But my older one I have pictures of her at 2 stirring a pot of soup because she was just so reserved, and she was very like rule followy and would do exactly what I told her to do. And, but both of them, when they got those tweeny ages, man, it was like they wanted to be in the kitchen all the time. My 12-year-old right now asks me to bake all the time, and I don't have to make anything. It's incredible.
That's amazing.
It's really nice. And, she wants to make fun things like, cookies and stuff too. But I'll say, okay, you can do that next time, but this time you're going to make muffins for breakfast for the week. And so she'll do that. But I would just say you're just going to have to ignore the mess.
Okay.
And your 8 and 10-year-olds are old enough to clean up after themselves as well.
Okay. This is growth. This is growth. I can do this.
Yeah. And they, you know what? Every age, starting really, really young, toddlers, all the way up through these teen years, they are craving purposeful activity.
Yes.
They are craving being a part of the family and contributing
to something that matters.
They are craving doing something purposeful.
Yes.
And so giving them that, maybe just letting go a little bit, knowing that, do it start early. If it's like, lunch on a weekend, start early. So there's like time for them to help you clean it up or whatever. But, make the fun stuff that they want to make too. Okay. When my middle one started getting kind of interested in the kitchen, we did start with, go ahead and make the cookies. Yeah. Because that's what she wanted to do.
Yeah.
And that was what sounded like fun to her. And she was so excited to contribute, because on Sunday nights, we do a dessert every week, Sunday dinner and a Sunday dessert every week. And she was just really excited to like contribute to that.
Yeah.
And it be her project that everybody was enjoying and eating. And I think when you have that mindset that you're giving them that purposeful activity, it really helps.
Yeah.
And as you get in, you're going to start feeling this with your 10-year-old as you start moving through middle school in later years. And then, my oldest started high school this year.
Wow.
And I'm telling you, that is a mind like blowing moment when you are looking at 9th grade. And she brings home her laptop and it said class of 2027.
Oh,
you're right.
I have 4 years. Like, that's it.
Yes.
To get her ready to be, she's still going to be coming home. Let's just face it. Or she'll even be home doing college. But like, when you look at how many years you have, and I want them to be prepared. I didn't know how to cook a thing when I left my house for college at all. I knew how to open up a box of protein bars or whatever, I didn't know how to make anything. So I want them to be prepared. So when you think about it that way, getting them into the kitchen doesn't feel like such an inconvenience.
Yes.
You're so
right.
You're so right. Oh, that's good. okay. All right. I'm going to pick a recipe from your Instagram today, and I'm going to have Rosie make something.
Yeah, I love that. That'll be fun. And I think too, some of it is like creating memories around it. We have like great pick farms nearby. So it's like, or my husband and I were growing an orchard, and I love the idea of like, we're going to go out and pick produce, whether you go to a pick farm, like go pick apples and then bring them home, like do that with your family. Then they get to be part of that process. And it's like, hey, what do you want to make with this? Like, here's 5 recipes. Which one sounds good to you? Let's make it.
Yes.
I don't know. I think that helps too, where they're part of the decision process.
Yeah.
Like you said.
Yes.
And I know
we have a lot of you picks here too. And if you go on the blog, which started in 2014, so there's like 10 years, almost 10 years.
Yeah.
Recipes, you'll see the girls very, very little, you picking, and then there's a recipe to go with it. And so if you search apple or pumpkin or whatever, those will all come up, and you'll even just like, we just did apple donuts like 3 weekends ago, because we just started picking apples here. And my 14-year-old, like, they're all about it. And it's because we started little.
Absolutely. My husband will laugh at that because I've been stalking your apple donut recipe.
Yes.
You first like posted about it on your Instagram, and we had just picked a bunch of Honeycrisp apples from his dad's tree. And I'm like, oh my God, I want to make these. It was his birthday last weekend. So I'm like, I want to make these for your birthday. I want to make these for your birthday. And I was like stalking your page for like, when's she going to put that recipe up?
Yeah. Which again, bringing up, yes, that you can have these gorgeous foods like these apple donuts. Like you can have a donut and you can have it gluten-free and dairy-free, and then like for me, I might add coconut sugar or whatever. And it can still be delicious and nourishing and delicious. It's amazing.
I love it. You've kind of already alluded to this too, but just so that we fully answer this question, especially for moms who have older kids who maybe haven't started them with like healthy foods, how do you manage picky eaters? Because I think you're really good with this topic.
Yeah. And what's interesting about that is I wouldn't consider myself having a very picky eating in my house, but every kid I think goes through a phase of not liking something or just not feeling it on a certain food. And I think I'm going to preface this really quick because I always want to address this first. This what the advice I'm going to give right now, this is for just like normal, regular, I don't want to say normal, but kids that don't have oral sensory issues or other medical issues going on with swallowing or things like that. I'm going to like just kind of put that out there.
Yeah.
So the advice I'm giving, like kids that are eating normally, they have normal mechanics of eating food and swallowing, and they aren't dealing with, you know, like sensory processing, oral sensory, whatever, need therapy or whatever. This is just kids that can eat normally.
Yes.
And just eating with, working with picky kids. I'm actually going to say the same advice that I give to moms that are starting babies on first foods. It can take a child, a baby, a child, no matter the age, an adult, it can take up to 20 tastes of a food for them to accept it.
Mm-hmm.
So it's kind of a patience game.
Mm-hmm.
And I think, you know, making sure that foods that they will eat are a part of their day is important. I also think that it's really important to not present food in a negative way.
Yes.
So if you're going to put a brand new dinner on the table tonight, instead of putting the dinner on the table and saying, well, you may not like this, but we're going to give it a try. And, you know, whatever, like, don't set them up for failure.
Yeah.
Right.
Like, this is, and you know what, maybe if it's a new recipe and you have older kids, maybe they're helping you make it so that they are more invested in trying it.
Yes.
But you know, if you always have the PB&J backup, you know, if they take like, you know, if they know they say no and they're going to get a PB&J, they're going to do that every time.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm maybe a little bit more, I don't know if you want to call it strict, but it's kind of worth it when you remember that you're the mom.
Yeah.
And you get to help them make those choices. I guess for the older kids, getting them involved, but like always, you know, have something familiar on the plate. Let them know why you're changing certain things. Like maybe, you know, if you're totally revamping your meal plan or how you eat in your house, and you're going to let's start with breakfast. Let them know why you're swapping the sugary cereal for oatmeal. Like tell them why. A 10-year-old is going to get that. You can, and they may not make you think that they get it, or they may roll their eyes, or they may think that it's kind of silly. But if you get real with them, I have gotten real with my girls before. I have told them my story. I have told them how I got sick. I have told them the why behind why we do what we do. And I do think that they get that.
Yeah.
So I don't know, I haven't dealt with picky eating with older kids. Do my kids eat everything? Nope. They have things that they don't like. But they will eat, you know, the majority of everything. So I don't know. I think it's funny that you think I'm good with picky kids, because I don't know that I don't feel like I'm very good with picky kids, because I don't like really have it in my house. So I feel like I'm pretty strict when it comes to that. If you're going to have a picky kid and there's no other medical complications going on.
Yes.
Then we're going to figure out how to enjoy it. I always tell the story of how I learned to like fish. I never ate fish when I was growing up, other than the yellow box of Gorton's fish sticks.
Yes.
That the kids in the 80s and 90s ate.
Yeah.
That's all I knew of as far as fish. And then you like dunk it in the tartar sauce.
Yeah.
And when I had my firstborn, I wanted her desperately to enjoy it because I knew how good it was for her brain and development and all this stuff. And I remember making salmon for the first time, and I was gagging. I could not handle the fish smell. Like, I'm cooking it, and I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to do this? Mm-hmm. And I sat her in her little chair, and I'm like, then I'm giving her like the bites of the salmon, like, so good. And she's like, 8 months old, maybe like probably 6 or 7 months old. And I'm throwing it on her tray. If you are presenting the food in a positive way for your little ones, it is going to work. With your older ones, you could be honest with them. Hey, you know what? I'm not even sure if I'm going to like this, but I'm going to try because I've told my kids I had a terrible taste palate when I started eating real food. It was awful. I grew up in the 80s and 90s. Salads was the closest thing to vegetables. Like I didn't have squash or, all these like different varieties of vegetables. I had to learn to like all of that. Yeah. And I'm really glad I did. It took some time to figure it out. To this day, I still have to eat fish like doctored up. Like I have to, put it in a pecan crust or like have some sort of pesto sauce with it or something, because I just didn't grow up eating it. Mm-hmm. My kids actually get angry when I bread fish. They will pull it off because they just love the taste of it. But it's because we started really little.
Mm-hmm. See, I think that is perfect, though. I think part of the reason why you don't have super picky eaters in your house is because of the way you've raised them. And
I agree.
You mentioned that system before of like having them in the kitchen, having them watch you, and having them eat little bits off of your plate, as opposed to from the beginning making something separate for them, which does just sort of on a...
Yeah, it trains them.
Yeah, it just trains them. Like,
and kids are social eaters. They're little ones for sure are social eaters. If you have a picky toddler and they're just like, just don't want to stop to eat, just eat together. Just eat off the same plate. You can teach table manners later.
Yes.
Like up at the, if they want to eat up there or they want to eat on the floor for a picnic, like if that's how you're getting them to eat and they're eating together, you can teach table manners later. Yeah, they're very social eaters.
I love that. That's such great advice.
So true.
That's funny. I also did not grow up eating fish at all. I didn't have fish till I was in my 20s. And I had the same experience as you. I was like, I hate this. But as a testament to it takes maybe up to 20 tries, I continued making myself try it. And I would try it in different ways and different recipes and doctor it up like you did. And now I love fish and I crave it because my brain needs it.
Yeah, same.
But it did take probably years of me. And I just repeatedly had it. Yeah. I was like, I know I don't love this, but I'm going to try a new recipe. I'm going to try it with, gluten-free tamari, or I'm going to try it with this mayo dipping sauce. And I found ways.
I love that, trying it in different ways. That's a really good point.
Yes.
I think probably if you have older kids, that's maybe another really good piece of advice, is just try it in a different way.
Yes.
If they don't like the vegetable, try it cooked. If they don't like it cooked, try it souped. If they don't, try it, maybe they like it better raw. One of my kids definitely is more of like all vegetables in soup form. That's how I can get her to eat it. The other one prefers it raw. Yeah. Like it's just every kid is different.
Yeah, that's good to remember too.
Okay, I'm thinking now on some practical matters with your life. Okay, so you have this gorgeous, gorgeous blog. The pictures are incredible. It looks delicious. Okay, now I'm just interested. How many hours in a week, in a day, do you cook? And then on a creative entrepreneur side, do you do your own photography of your food? And what does that look like? You're so good at everything. Tell me what your life looks like.
Well, if you go back to like some of my 2014 blogs, you'll see that it was definitely me photographing, and I was definitely not trained.
Okay.
At least I have self-trained myself. So yes, the photography is all mine.
That's amazing.
But gorgeous. It did not start out looking like that. I am not in the kitchen all day. I have a very busy, that's like the whole like one real mama, one real dad, like the tagline on my 3 real kids, like, you know, raising a real food generation in a real world. We are definitely in the real world. My kids go to a school and they have friends, they have activities after school and sports and normal, regular things. I work from home. I would say more part-time. There are seasons where it's more than full-time, like as in writing a cookbook, or right now I'm in the middle of a blog redesign, and that is a lot of work. My husband works full-time, so we have like very normal, regular, I would say like middle-class, normal, regular lives.
Responsibilities.
Yes, responsibilities and all of that. And so I am not in the kitchen all the time.
Okay.
Am I in the kitchen more than the average? Probably because of what I do.
Yeah.
Because when you're photographing a dinner, like step by step, like I like to do, so that people can see what it looks like step by step, that takes much, much longer. And so that's like sort of scheduled into a day or two during the week. It takes multiple days to blog a recipe.
Oh yeah, so, I believe it.
And because of that, But Anna, if you want to just talk about normal family meals, what I'm doing, I am not in the kitchen all day long. I do have a bit of a framework. That rotisserie chicken that Elaine said that she made the other day, that is literally on the menu every single Sunday. I make one of those. Now, it used to be when the girls were little, I would make that and we would have it for our nice little Sunday dinner, and we would have like probably half of it, and then I'd have the other half that I could use for meals. Not with teenagers. They can pound out an entire chicken in one sitting. So literally an entire chicken, one whole chicken, goes to the girls, mostly the girls' lunch boxes for the whole week. So if I want to have that on Sunday for Sunday dinner, there's 2 chickens going in at the same time.
Yes. I think this is such a good segue. You can keep going too, but
that's okay.
Such a good segue.
You were just asking about like, how am I in the kitchen all the time? No, on the weekends, there's a lot of like prep, like a little bit of, definitely a lot of play. We love our weekends. I'm very protective over our weekends. But there's like definitely some prep in there. Like, so whatever I'm making on Saturday for breakfast, it's not just a dozen muffins or a little pan of whatever. It's going to be 2 dozen muffins or a huge pan 9x13 of baked oatmeal, so that I can use it later in the week for school. I don't even on school mornings, the only thing I'm cooking is eggs, if we're having even that, because a lot of times I'm hard boiling eggs on a Sunday so that we can just pull eggs easily, and I'm not doing it. I'm not doing, because especially with now that the girls are in 2 separate places for school, I have a high schooler and then my other 2 are at the other, whatever, like it's 2 separate times, and I feel like I'm making breakfast twice. And I'm not doing it.
Not doing it. This was my exact question, was because you focus a lot on meal prep and meal planning. This is exactly what I was going to ask you, which we're already getting into, was what are your tips and advice for meal prepping? What does that look like for you? How do you prep meals for the week? And just kind of some general pieces of advice for families who want to like meal prep for the whole week.
And do you have 8 freezers in your garage?
No, I do have a deep freezer though.
Okay, good.
And so
Elanie might, but go ahead.
We do have a deep freezer, and that is very helpful. But I don't think you have to do that. Because I would say actually I froze stuff more when I had little kids, because when you have these kids that are eating like adults, because that's what teenagers do, the way my thought process is I'm going to make dinner. How can I make this dinner not just be one dinner?
That's so smart.
So it's either I'm doubling it, or I'm making it more, or I'm making it so that like I'm serving it and we're serving part of it for dinner and the other part's going in lunch boxes, or it's going to be dinner the next night or whatever. So I'm trying to plan it that way. Whereas I feel like when the girls were much younger, I did a little bit more freezing. I still freeze soup all the time. So in the colder months of the year, I'm making a pot of soup right along with that chicken. So as the chicken is being deboned for everybody, the bones are going back in and making broth so that I can make soup the next day. It's just like, it just kind of becomes a part of so Mondays are usually soup. I don't necessarily sit down and meal plan, but I definitely have a rhythm
Yeah.
so that I'm not thinking about it all the time. I'm not writing down meal plans. Now I have meal plans on the blog, and it was because people asked for them.
Mm-hmm.
And what I did was I didn't sit down and meal plan. I wrote down what I did for the week, and then I blogged it. Because I don't actually go that far ahead. I try and I have a little bit of a rhythm, and then I make stuff based on ingredients that I have. So I don't necessarily make a bunch of meals to warm up and do.
Yeah.
I am making ingredients, a chicken, and I'll use that chicken in other things.
Yes.
Or I'm using a soup and I'm using that soup. I'm making a salad dressing and using it all week.
Yeah.
We're making hard-boiled eggs and using it, most of the week for, adding in on breakfasts or lunch boxes. So that's kind of like my approach for meal planning, which is definitely not like set in stone. Other people like to write things down and have it completely set day by day. Go for it.
Yes.
That's what works.
It works for some people. Yeah.
And you have the template on your website if they need it. I'm the same. I'm not a meal
people
planner.
Were begging for them. I don't remember when I brought those in. It might have been actually during the pandemic when I had a little bit more time.
Yes.
And I was like, and people were asking for them. And I'm like, okay, I'm going to go ahead and just write down what I actually did last week.
Yeah.
Because I don't think that far ahead. I just have my little bit of a framework, and I have multiple ingredients ready to pull. If you were to open my fridge right now, you're going to find, chicken already prepared, and you're going to find a soup that I made on Sunday so that it's going to be, gone by the end of the week. And that's kind of how I plan and prep at this point.
Yeah.
What do you freeze your soup in the freezer? Like a bag? Because I've tried to do this, and then if I put it in a plastic, it breaks. I can't get it out right. Anyway, what do you do?
Yeah, no, I have BPA safe, like little freezer quart jars.
Okay.
Not jars. I'm sorry. It's like plastic.
It is plastic.
But they're so that they don't break, because I broke too many jars. Even if I did it the right way, where you leave the lid off, it still always would crack.
Yeah.
So I have these little quart, and they stack on top of each other.
Okay.
The other way that's really nice, I use these two, not so much anymore, because we'll eat a quart of soup in one sitting. That's just how much older kids. But when they were little, have you ever seen they're called super cubes? It's spelled like soup.
I've heard of them for sure.
Yeah.
And then ER,
Okay.
super cubes. And they're little silicone. It's kind of like freezing them in a block.
Yeah.
So you freeze them in a ice cube tray, like a big ice cube tray, and then you pop them out and put them in a freezer bag. And then they can pop out. So then you have like a half cup portion or a 1 cup portion. And so when the kids were little, it's kind of like freezing baby food. That's sort of what it ends up being. But then when they were little, I could just pull out a little, 1 cup of soup, and it would feed all, the little people. I mean, that doesn't work for big people.
No.
Big kids anymore. It's a really good way to do it if you've got little ones.
And what about lunches for your kids? Because I think that's always a struggle. I get asked that a lot for parents. It's like, how do I prep lunches for my kids?
Like,
what do you do
lunches
with that? I think your kids help with their lunches too. So maybe just
I don't make my older two lunches. So they, I would say right around, my youngest is in 4th grade now, and she is starting to help me with packing her lunch. They always like when they were little, I would always give them choices. Like, we have apples and bananas this week. What do you want for your fruit? We have carrots, celery, and peppers this week. What do you want for your vegetable? Like that kind of thing. Yeah. So they always felt like they were, a bit of part of it. But right around like 4th, 5th grade, I start having them help me. And then once they're in middle school, 6th grade, they're packing their own lunch. And yes, I'm helping them. A lot of times when they start packing it, I'm like packing my youngest's lunch, and they're watching me and kind of like picking and choosing. And they know, protein, carb, vegetable, like they know kind of what they need. They know what their bodies need. I have one kid that needs way more protein to feel good than the other one, or the other one loves to pack, this huge salad with lots of, chicken on it. That's like her favorite thing to bring to school. Like they are all different. It's kind of nice to give them that autonomy to pick what works for them. My oldest will say, I have a lot of tests coming up on this day, and I really would like this. And so I'll make sure that that's available. And like I had said earlier, where I have lots of ingredients in the fridge, like things to make stuff.
Yeah.
They can do that. So like I always have that shredded chicken in there. So they know how to make a quesadilla if they want to get a couple of wraps out and make a quesadilla or make the chicken salad, or they, you know, have my recipe in my cookbook for chicken salad if that's what they want.
Yes.
There's always hard-boiled eggs in the so they're packing kind of on their own. What's really cool is at least in my house, as they've gotten older, they prefer to take dinner leftovers more often, which is really like, you don't have to think about it.
Yes.
Yeah.
They prefer to just like take the dinner leftovers.
Yeah.
So, which is really nice. And I think part of the reason they like that is because they don't have to think about it.
Yes. Absolutely.
Because like they don't have to pack their lunch, really. They just have to warm it up in the morning and throw it in a thermos.
Yes.
Got it.
And so I think maybe that's part of the reason why. But that's kind of become that. With my younger one, I do think ahead a bit. I have a little bit of a rhythm. We always make waffles, these protein waffles that are on the blog. We always make those on Saturdays, and I always double it. And that's so that I have sandwich bread. It actually, when it's not like hot out of the waffle iron, it actually becomes really soft like sandwich bread. And so she always has a sandwich on that on Mondays. Like if you look at the lunch boxes on my Instagram, almost every Monday is a waffle sandwich and then sides on the side.
Yes.
Awesome.
I always have a soup made, like I had said. So they'll, you know, there's always like 1 or 2 soup days during the colder months of the year, which is a lot of our,
Yes.
it's a lot of our school year is colder months.
Yes.
And so they're taking soup a couple of times a week with a bunch of stuff on the side. I don't really plan it out. I have, you know, like there's the yogurt lunchbox where there, you know, I put yogurt in, and then I always have granola in the pantry. I make granola probably once a month, and it's sitting in the pantry, so I can always pull from it. Like I have themes of lunch boxes in my head.
Yes.
So that I can just quickly make them when I need.
Yes.
And that maybe takes a little bit of planning at the beginning to kind of figure out what your kids like, what kind of theme they like. And that's maybe where that lunchbox cookbook comes in, is where, you know, they can kind of pick and choose. I've heard moms say they have their kids put sticky notes on the pages of the lunchboxes that they like. And every lunchbox in that cookbook only has one homemade component. That was my whole goal, because if it's not sustainable, you're not going to do it all year.
Absolutely.
Right.
And so there's one homemade component with the rest as, you know, sides. You're adding the fruit or the vegetable or, you know, nuts, or if your school can have nuts. So
yes,
that way it's just, so once you have like the theme down, you can kind of make it, you know, you can make it how you want during the week, whatever day. So, you know, Mondays are waffle sandwich days in our house.
Yeah.
You know,
Sounds
Tuesdays
delicious.
are the soup day from the Monday that I made soup for dinner. The soup goes in the thermos on Tuesday.
Yeah. You definitely have like a rhythm.
There's a rhythm
to it.
Yes. I try and do on Wednesdays, they get something either really fun or a pizza muffin of some sort, because it's pizza day at their school on Wednesdays, and they get Little Caesars comes in, and it's a fundraiser, the whole thing.
Yeah.
So, but I don't want them to feel left out. And
Yes.
I do actually end up always supporting the fundraiser. I just give monetary donation, but then they get pizza muffins, which that recipe is on the blog, or maybe we have spaghetti the night before, and we can like make it cheesy spaghetti. So it's kind of like something fun, something different. I really like.
I love that. I love that
cool.
so much.
So cool. Your zone of genius is like practical, nourishing autonomy for your kids. Like you put it all together, and it's really quite brilliant. So good job. Good job.
I appreciate that.
Yeah.
Well, I feel like just in sort of as we start to wrap things up here, because I could literally sit and talk with you for another 2 hours, but of course I want to respect your time. But
right.
Just what words of encouragement do you have for the moms who are just beginning this healthy journey, or who are struggling to get their kids on board with the healthy journey and they're feeling kind of overwhelmed?
Yeah. One meal at a time. Don't try and overhaul your whole entire house and pantry and fridge in one day, 1 week, or even 1 month. Earlier I had said, you know, if you're just starting with breakfast, if you could just start with fixing breakfast, a lot of the other stuff will kind of fall into line. Just fix one meal and try not to focus on what they can't have. Focus on what they can have. Because if you're keeping it positive, it's not going to feel like you're, putting your thumb down on everybody and just changing your whole world. Because the kids, as much as you let them know your reasons why for wanting to change, they're still kids. Their prefrontal cortex is not going to make those like cause and effect sort of decisions or rationalizations till way into their 20s. And so they can't, it makes sense what you're telling them, but they still, the Fruit Loops still are going to taste way better than a bowl of oatmeal. So, so you're just going to have to, fix one thing at a time, but focus on what they can have and make that part fun. And let's not complicate it because you don't have to make the big fancy dinner every night. You can do like every single time hamburger night with throw some potato fry. There is the best French fry recipe on the blog. It's a sheet pan. It's so fast. It's really easy. I promise. Hamburgers and French fries at home is 110% always going to be better than fast food. So I don't care if that's on your menu every single week, that hamburger night or the taco night. Do the taco night and add some like shredded veggies in it. There's a recipe on the blog for veggie loaded tacos. You can do the same thing with spaghetti, and it's bumping up the nutrition and the minerals, and you watch your kids have more focus, more attention, feel better, sleep better when their minerals are balanced out and they aren't all crashing on electrolytes and minerals. So if you can get like those veggies and some of those regular meals that kids still love, because you've always been doing taco night, you've always been doing spaghetti night and burger night. You can still do that. And it won't feel like you're taking everything away from them.
I love that.
Let me just look at this really quick here. I feel like that. I guess my last encouragement that I wrote down is just that maybe from, how they say you don't, it's really hard to grow old. I hit my 40s and I was like, oh, man. But what comes with that is so can you take this wisdom and advice from an older mom? Absolutely. It is so worth it. It is so worth it. It is so worth having kids. And I know some of you probably have the older kids and you can fix things with them. I promise you can. But I'm not going to dance around with moms of younger ones. I am telling you right now, it is so worth it. It is worth having kids that you don't have to worry about, are they going to eat the dinner tonight? Are they going to eat what you put in their lunchbox? Are they going to make healthy choices when they go to that birthday party? So it may feel like a lot of work right now. Sometimes I look back at some of the pictures of the girls when they're little and lots of pictures of them in the kitchen with me. And I'm like, how in the world did I do that? I don't know how I did it. I just took one day at a time. And I remember feeling overwhelmed sometimes. I remember feeling like that mom that was the only one doing this. Because I was at the park and I had, little, cut up apples and cheese for them. And the other moms were just pulling out really easy puffs or they were pulling out really easy granola bars in a wrapper. And you wonder, is this going to be worth it? Like it is worth it.
Yes.
Every single time.
Yep.
I love that.
Amen.
I love that. Totally. Yes. Amen. Thank you.
Totally.
Wow. Well, you are such an amazing soul. Honestly, it just shines through when you talk. I'm like, man, in another life, like you could have been a health coach, right? You're just so encouraging. I know. You're already in your zone and you're already like making it happen in your magic, and you shouldn't change a thing, but you would be an incredible health coach. For
the one-on-one, you're doing it to the masses, but we need you one-on-one always.
But yes, you're amazing. And thank you so much, Renee, for being on this show and sharing your wisdom with our listeners. I feel like you've just given us so much value to offer to our listeners, and we really appreciate it.
Yes,
Good.
and I am adding to cart the recipe book, one of them, not the baby one, but the other one.
I'm going to add the baby one.
You get the baby one. I'll get the other one.
Yeah,
Absolutely.
I got them right here. So Little
Yes.
Lunchbox cookbook is here.
Yes, the Little Lunchbox.
Adorable.
And then Nourished Beginnings here.
It's
love
literally going into my cart,
Love
and I'm
it.
buying it the second we end
I
this.
love
I
it.
can't wait to hear about that because you have a 4-month-old, so you get to do that like very soon.
Yes, I know. I'm so honestly just talking with you about it made me so excited
Yes.
for it. I'm
Yeah.
already like just scheming it up. So
And then to tell our listeners again, all your socials.
yes, please.
For our listeners.
Yeah.
Just Facebook, Instagram is mostly, I am on Twitter, but it's just stuff that gets shot over to Twitter very often, but not very often. But I do engage as much as I can in DMs when I can, when it doesn't really get piled up. And then I'll have a day where I try and get through everybody.
Yeah.
But I do engage there. I do engage more on the blog as well.
Okay.
I know not everybody likes to comment on blogs and whatnot. It does help it does help bloggers. It really does when you comment on actual posts. And right now I'm going through a blog redesign. So it's going to look really, really, really pretty very soon.
Okay.
It's like really, really do. But Raising Generation Nourished is the blog, as well as Instagram and Facebook.
And it's all one word on Instagram.
Yeah, it's
no
Raising
dots.
Generation.
It's just
Nourished.
all lowercase Raising
Yep.
Generation Nourished.
Yeah. Well, our listeners will go to that and it will look gorgeous, and then they'll want to go eat gorgeous, delicious, healthy food, which is really cool. So it's been a pleasure talking to you, and thank you so much for being who you are to the world.
Thanks.
You're
Yes,
welcome.
of course.
And
for
to our listeners, go be renegades.
go be renegades.
Thank you for listening to the Renegade Nutrition Podcast.
Please keep in mind that this podcast is an educational service that provides general health information. The content on this podcast is not a substitute for direct, personal, professional medical care and diagnosis. You should always talk to your doctor before making a dietary or lifestyle change. Go be renegades!
Go be renegades!